going.
Welcome everybody to Jabber Talkie. Go, Butt, go.
All right, welcome everybody. We are at the third edition of Jabber Talkie, a place where we come and chat it out. Today we are going to be going over Talentland and what it was like, the experience, and what was gained and what was learned and what mistakes were made. And we're going to spend some time talking about Talentland, and then we're going to shift right on over into the HIVE Hub and have a live brainstorming session. So thanks everybody for tuning in. And Starkerz, are you out there?
Oh yeah, can you hear me?
We hear you.
We hear you, buddy. Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, we want to maybe go over kind of, we're contemplating, what happened almost a month ago now at Talentland, where we really put all of the tools together for onboarding with the distributor, with the selfie app. We were creating accounts. We were selling them the T-shirts with the cashback, and we kind of want to just wrap up all those lessons learned. I know we've been talking a little bit about, picking up some of the loose ends, some of the low-hanging fruit in that onboarding experience, cleaning it up. Tell us, from where you're at, looking back now, how you see it all.
Yo, yeah. Well, it's actually great for me to hear you in here talking about this because, of course, you were at Talentland and you saw and contributed firsthand to the event. I thought it was amazing, man. I was so happy with just the way we got a bunch of amazing Hivians there. That's the key thing to these events. If you can get a bunch of Hivians, as many as you can, with a reasonable cost to get them there, you can really get value for money for the community. And I thought just the team of people did such an amazing job, considering we're not an organized like corporate system. We're just a bunch of volunteers that turn up to these events and do our best. And then, of course, as Hive's maturing, the tools are getting better and better. So I think the people there did a far better job than me of employing the tools that have been built to really show and demonstrate the power of Hive live at the event. And I just thought it was a great way to bring those people together and see it all happen.
Why don't you guys paint a little picture? That's something I'm curious about, because you look like you're having so much fun off of all the posts, and your guys' booth just looked like one of the happening booths. But maybe paint the picture of the event. Like, how many booths were there? Were there other really popular booths that everybody ended up at? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we can do that maybe will help with that is that Eddie's just helped put together a blog, which I've just posted in the voice chat, that you can click into, and we published it yesterday, and it's a real kind of top level summary, executive summary really of the whole event. So you can click in the photos there and see the scale of the event, see all the people, see the different blogs that the Hivians wrote as their summaries of having attended and what they thought was good and bad about the event. But the event in itself, from a top level summary here, was it's approximately 60,000 attendees. It's 4 days and it's 24 hours a day. It's in Guadalajara, Mexico. The crowd is, there's a lot of young people there, a lot of tech people. It's a big tech conference. It's not crypto specific. And so there's all sorts of different projects there. And something that I really found was that because it wasn't crypto only, there was a lot of interest from people that didn't really know what crypto was and kind of came in from the outside of crypto. And they got their first exposure to it through this event and through meeting the Hivians there. And I thought that was really, really powerful because rather than a normal crypto conference where you go, everyone knows what crypto is and what you're really looking for, you're looking for maybe investors. Well, I don't think Hive is looking for investors. I think Hive's looking for users. And these types of events that are established with huge crowds that go every year, I think it's a very low-hanging fruit for Hive to go and attend, because we can truly demonstrate the power of Hive to these people, and let them leave the event understanding what crypto really is, and that it's not about investing, it's about utility, and it's about the fact that we can show users how they can use the systems and how they can be rewarded for using the systems at these events now. And I thought Talentland was a great chance and opportunity to do that. And I mean, I'm singing the group's own praises here, but I think we did a great job of doing that, and it's hopefully sets a standard for events going forwards on Hive.
And Eco, you've been to a lot of events in the past. How was this event compared to other events you've been to?
Well, this is my third in Latin America, and I was just going through the Talentland Fund post. Incredible post with great pictures, receipts, tables, numbers. Okay, so first of all, none of the events I attended before that, which was Crypto Latin Fest in 2023, I think it was, where we did onboard John Tomaszewski. That's kind of like the thing to remember about it. Then I also attended, without a booth, the LATAM Blockchain Summit on the next year. That must have been 2023, where we made more of the potential contacts. I connected with College and did 2 master classes on Hive later after that event. But we didn't really have a booth, so we didn't do a lot of onboarding person to person or give away any merch. So they're different strategies completely. This one was more similar to the Crypto Latin Fest. I thought, first of all, our booth was better positioned, and maybe even the whole event had better positioning. It was probably a bigger event than Crypto Latin Fest. Off the top of my head, there was, 5 to 10,000 attendees, whereas this one seemed like it was a lot more over the course of the 4 days. We weren't the biggest booth type at either of the events. I did notice in the center of that business arena, there were like, I almost want to say like infomercial things. They were like, they had big, display sections where they could like put on shows and stuff. So we didn't have like, I don't think we spent at the alpha level, but we had our logo on the official sponsors. We were, I thought, really nice position. Like as you walked straight through, we were like in the second row. We always had people. That was another big benefit about having, 13 different leaders from around Latin America. I thought it was the best one I ever been to, but I don't know that I could say that I've been to a lot of events, but it seems to be getting better every time. And in terms of organization, I definitely think that we stepped it up a level, especially looking at this transparency report. We can never do an event without one of these. This needs to be, every event needs to do this. Good, bad, and ugly. We need to see what's going on so we can continue to make these things better and better.
Why don't we start digging into that report? I think that this is something a lot of people are interested in. What stands out to you guys?
Well, if I may, could I do like a top level summary of this report, and then maybe we can go into the details?
Absolutely, do it.
Yeah. Because I think this is really important. There's a lot of skepticism around how value plan funding is spent, and I personally don't agree with all of it. I don't think anyone on Hive agrees with all the spending on value plan. I think even the people that are running value plan don't agree on all the spending that's happening in value plan. But one thing I think that we can do is take the subjectivity away from it by helping events and initiatives in value plan report KPIs, report the actual numbers of what they're doing. So when they do an event and spend money, the community's money, they should, wherever possible, present like a KPI such as number of accounts onboarded. That's like the most basic one probably for most things that are spent on value plan. It's not applicable for everything, of course. But we need to come up with KPIs for these things, and certainly for events, one of the most simple is number of accounts onboarded. But we also focused on number of businesses that were onboarded, which is much harder to do, but we did get quite a few businesses that we onboarded at the event, and I think that's very, very valuable for Hive. And even now you'll see that there's one business, Berlin's, which is a German beer bar in Guadalajara. They love this stuff, and they're onboarding their own people now to Hive, and they're using the spending systems to get discounts for their clients, and it's it's fantastic to see. So these types of things are very, very valuable. The other couple of things that we documented were number of potential leads made. A few of the Hivians, including Eco in the room, made some very, very strong potential connections that could use Hive, and Eddie very kindly has gone through and detailed a few of them in the report post. And then I think lastly, what was the other KPI that we had? Let me just quickly get to this. We also did workshops. So during the event, we were onboarding businesses and then advertising workshops that are separate to the event and inviting a few people to come and try out the technology in real businesses. So those are, I think, are great KPIs for most events to focus on. So then what do we do with that? We can take those numbers and say, well, let's compare that to other spending that's going on in Value Plan. And if the spending that's going on in Value Plan outperforms that, then let's keep pushing spending that way. Whereas in other areas of Value Plan spending money, if it's not getting very good KPIs, but it's spending a lot of money, well, maybe that we don't need to be subjective about it at that point and say, oh, I don't like this or I do like this. Is it producing results or not? And if it isn't producing results, can we move the funding somewhere else, maybe to focus it somewhere that is producing better results, and can you see those results on the blockchain, and how do we, easily document those things? So just very quickly, because I know I'm talking a little bit here, but very quickly, we've got the first thing on the blog is the budget. So we've been completely transparent about the budget. We've listed all the expenses. We've listed the estimation that we thought it was going to cost. We've listed what we actually spent, and we've provided the receipts and the on-chain transactions for each spending there. So we can probably go into that in a little bit more detail, because I think there's some really key lessons there as to what we spent money on and where we saved money, and why we weren't big spenders there, but we did do really well with the money that we spent. We came away with a good saving of about 20% off what we estimated the event was going to cost, and we actually returned money back to Value Plan because we didn't spend all the money. Then the next one is
Let me step on you, because you got so much good stuff to say. This is incredible.
Sorry.
So I'm looking at I'm here right now. I want to show this. They had budgeted 33,800 more or less, and they didn't even get it all. They only got 30. And I say they, I mean the team that was managing it, which I think we could just say it's Starkerz, but he had a team together that they were managing this fund.
Definitely a lot of help from people like you, and certainly Eddie Spino, of course, was a big help in the early planning of the event and management.
Yeah, and I saw Eddie. Eddie was a monster. He's a logistical monster. I love that.
Yeah, the unsung hero of Hive. I think that guy. He's incredible.
So they only got a little bit less than 31,000. So already they didn't receive the entire budget, because it was looking probably like they were going to come in under budget. And then the total spend was about 27,400, right? So total under budget is over 6,400 HBD or dollars under the initial proposed budget. So that's even, 20%. Now, here's the part. Even of the money they did get, which is less, they sent back 3,600 and change of the Hive dollar. And I notice this post right here is 100% beneficiary to the DAO, the Hive Fund. So what we're doing, I think, with this is really showing that this was paid for by Hivians. We're responsible with the money. We did the best we could. We sent back the excess. And now what we're trying to do by showing our transparency is even tweak those numbers a little bit better to put some money back in to the DAO based on all this work that's been done. Exactly
that. And Yeah, the other thing that we've done on the blog, we've deleted everyone's details, so there's no names on these expenses. Although you can track them back to the Hive account that they were sent to, but you don't know the actual name of the Hivian, and obviously we've deleted all the bank details as well. But all of the receipts apart from that are on on chain now. They're on the blogs. That's the next section. So we can prove what we spent. We can prove what we spent it on. It's as transparent as we can possibly get it. And so any of the spending that was done can be accounted for. So, hopefully it reduces this issue that we have with value plan spending, where a lot of it's like a black hole and you don't really see the results that come out. And so then we've done a budget summary where we received about 31K and we spent 27K. So we came 6K under budget, just over 6K under budget, and we returned 3,700 because we didn't receive the full budget. But like you were saying, Eco, it was looking like it was coming under budget anyway, so we didn't need to receive the full budget. And then KPIs, we onboarded 280 accounts, and you have no idea. I mean, we could probably get this even slicker, but you have no idea. The amount of conversations and things that happen to get those 280 accounts isn't just, they turned up and we signed them up. Every single one of those accounts was a Hivian convincing the other person to try this out and answering their questions and spending time. It was so cool, like the amount of energy to onboard a user and then show them how they can take a selfie and then they can get instant crypto and Bitcoin to their account and then they can spend it to buy, for example, the t-shirts like Eco was saying. It's a big process, and we had 13 Hivians almost full time for the 4 days straight there doing that, and that resulted in those 280 accounts. People like Eddie Spino were just a beast, where he realized you could do groups of people at the same time. So he started signing up like groups of 3 to 5 people, and he wouldn't really speak to individual people because he would get his numbers high. So that was pretty cool. Someone like Greenmaster contributed massively to the amount of businesses signed up because he's a local and he's got a certain way about him. He onboarded 3 businesses, and the rest of the team onboarded another 3 businesses separately. So there's 6 businesses in Guadalajara that accept HBD now because of this event. And then potential leads. We had some great conversations with great projects that we've got a lot of synergy with, the things that we can follow up on. So we can go into a bit more details about those later. And then we did 3 separate workshops, and we gave away 200 plus t-shirts to different people that came. Well, we didn't give them away, we actually sold them, which is another key learning item here from the event, that you can sell the merch back to the people you've given free money to, and that makes the amount of money you have to distribute to the event much lower than what you would initially think. I was fortunate enough, and Guilty Pies, I have to give him some credit, he negotiated a great price to get us on the main stage, which I wasn't particularly, I wasn't trying to drive for, because I was trying to get the event as cheap as possible. But it looked like Guilty managed to negotiate it down. I wasn't party to that, and we got the main stage of price included in the original booth price, which was way cheaper than we thought it was going to cost. So we got all that and got the main stage presentation done, and that was actually quite cool because a lot of people came to me and said after that, a lot of people have come because of the speech. They were interested by the speech, and they came to the booth to see what was really going on. And then we talk here about the potential leads that we got, which we can go into a bit later. Following that, there's a Talentland feed. See, because of the onboarding system that we used, and we can go into details about this a bit later. We've got a feed now of all the people that were onboarded during Talentland, and you can go and click on that feed and see them all, and you can go support them. So we can try to retain these people into the ecosystem for doing what we said we were going to do, which is support their posts. So when they come to us at Talentland, and this should go for any event, we can add them to this feed, and then we can upvote the content on this feed, because this is supporting new people coming, real new people coming in because they were interested from meeting the Hivians at an event. So this is something else we can talk about rolling this out.
So I'm really interested in this in the feed, but before we get there, let's just dig in a little bit into some of the meanings of this. So I see here it says cost per sign up 97 HBD. So this is the 280 divided over the whole conference, or how is that work?
It's the final spend of 27K divided by the 280 accounts comes up to about $97 per sign.
I wanted to jump in here too, because in my experience, I mentioned with Crypto Latin Fest, we onboarded John Tomaszewski, and he actually attended he was a Bitcoiner. He didn't know about Hive until we got to talking, and then he invited me on his podcast, and then I invited him out to my farm. He helped me make some videos. I paid him in HBD. He only wanted Satoshis. I invited him to make some simple videos about, like, what is a blockchain? What is staking? What are these things? To help translate it into Spanish, into easy language. And hey, how can I pay you? He wanted Satoshis. I said, well, we got the V for V app. Let me pay you in Hive dollars. And so this like process that I went through over a year after Crypto Latin Fest, and now John Tomaszewski was in Guadalajara repping Hive with us. Okay, so that's a process. But John Tomaszewski, for those who don't know, he's got his own proposal. He's building some tech called the Hive debit card. John Tomaszewski is like $1 million on board. You know what I mean? Like, what is it worth? Is he worth $100 or, it's $1 million kid. And I said it months ago. I said to Guilty Parties, man, when the Hive debit thing was coming on, I said, this is $1 million kid. This covers over a lot of sins, of the value plan. You should use this kid to support what you're doing, because there's good stuff in there. And so
you're dead right. And just say, Guilty's very familiar. Guilty's very much aware of this. I've spoken to Guilty and said, look, we've not been very good over the years of reporting the numbers, but all the marketing budget that we spent in South America, I don't want to say all of it like that, but it's almost as though just onboarding one Jan, who's a C++ developer and a young, bright kid that really is very well connected in Bitcoin and crypto, to get him passionate and understanding what Hive is, especially HBD, and he's become passionate about building the Hive debit project. And that's just the start, in my opinion. I think he's going to do a lot more on Hive. And just that alone probably justifies the spending that we've done in South America, because he's such a young kid and he's so smart. That could be years and years of amazing creativity on the Hive network from that alone. So it's very, very powerful stuff at the end of the day, even if there weren't that many KPIs previously done.
So we have to kind of take this with a grain of salt. I, for one, think that this KPI existing at $97 per user is super important. We need to have this. But, you might think, well, the business is worth more than an individual. A lead could be worth more, could be worth nothing. I mean, we have to kind of take a number for what it is. I'd love to see the next 10 events do this calculation so we could see them side by side. Obviously, it's a rare user, and you can't really plan for it. That's worth $1 million. It covers over a number of events. But it's a start. These KPIs are a real good start. But it is a very crude number here at $97 per user. Obviously, some bring much more value than others. It's just kind of an average that we average out over the whole event.
I think it's very interesting, though, because I never looked at it that way until I realized at this event, with the onboarding technology we were using, we can track these numbers. And then I was like, well, it should be $5 a user, right? That's what we spend as a community to onboard a user. And it's like, no. And I think the industry average for the Web2 industry is something like $300 a user. They're willing to spend up to $300 per user to onboard a user. So in many ways, you could say we've got a good deal. But it's much more expensive than it looks, right? At first value, it is. And maybe this 97 number can be some kind of a baseline, where it's like we can have other events then and see if they spend more or less than $100 per onboard. It'd be very interesting to see, and then you get an idea as to which areas are worth spending more money on, because some areas have got more people that you can onboard and maybe more valuable people, and some areas don't, and so maybe we direct more funding to the places that we're seeing better results.
Well, especially for value plan, because onboarding is a big piece of it. So why more projects that have gotten funding aren't doing some kind of number like this is more the question, But
the thing I like though, Buttcoins is like, the thing that's beautiful about Hive. We're not perfect, but I think once people start doing this type of thing, it sets the example, and then other people can say, what, I'm going to do that too. And I think that's potentially what could happen here if we're good advocates of this.
Absolutely. So let's get into how you're following these 280. How does a person who hears this and wants to support these 280 new accounts that are onboarded when they post? How do we find out that they've posted another post?
Yeah. This is, I'm going to give you the short answer and the long answer. That is the feed that I've just posted into the room. It's a /Talentland tag. Sorry, is it a /Talentland feed? Wait there 1 second. Yeah. So if you click on that, excensi.com/created/Talentland, you'll see a feed of all these people. And what that is, it's an account called Pioneer Supporter. And what we do is when they come in through the onboarding system, we follow them, and then you can present the follow feed on Excensi in that way. So in that way, any of them that post, you see the follow feed of this account, Pioneer Supporter, and you can go vote these people. So this is very interesting to me because it works in several ways. Over the next few days, we trialed this technology at Talentland, right? It's an app where you take a photo, it basically instantly posts a chain. You don't have to faff around with making a title or some tags. You just take the photo, tag the Hivian that you've liaised with or that you've checked in with, and then it posts all that information to chain. And so now there's an on-chain piece of evidence of a Hivian who we know that's running an event or is attending an event, who's probably a credible person because they're at the event, evangelizing Hive, having checked in with a new user. So now that gives that new user credibility because I know they're probably not trying to scam the chain, right? So then they go on this feed, and now it's almost like we can roll this out for everyone else on Hive, right? That's a trusted person, and it's going to take us a while to build this list of trusted people, but maybe we can have an application process for that. But we know a bunch of people who we think are pretty credible on Hive. They've proven themselves over the years, so we can start off from that point and slowly grow the team of people. So when those people onboard a new user and do a quick selfie with them or a quick blog with them, that kind of signifies that they've checked in together, then they can go on this list, and then anyone else can vote for that list, which means actually that instead of, let's say you're a Hivian that's really passionate about Hive, but you don't have a big stake, and then you onboard someone, and then you say, go write really high quality blogs, and then maybe some whale's going to vote for you, but then they don't vote for you, and then they kind of drop off, right? You don't get the retention. Well, this is the opposite. So this is, if you don't have a big stake, and even if you do, you can check in through this app with a new sign up that you've got. It goes on the follow feed, and now everyone else on Hive can vote for that follow feed. So what you're effectively doing is saying to people, hey, if you onboard with me and check in with me, you're more likely to get votes because you're on this feed now. And that should help retention, because everyone's voting on people they know are credible people instead of like some random anonymous account that just signed up through a non-system. This is like a legit sign up through a bunch of Hivians who are credible, trusted people on the chain. I'm going to vote for that, right? We're going to put votes on that feed. So you don't even need to have a big account to support your signups now. We can effectively outsource that to the rest of the community via this feed. And I just think that is super interesting, and hopefully it results in a much higher retention rate for Hivians.
So just to like drill down into this, I've clicked on this link. I'm here in the link. So basically, what you're saying here is all of these people. I'm looking at the top of the list right now. Pepa Velez, Gerard Shogun. All of these people are people that were onboarded. Like
Yeah.
everything on this feed are the onboarded people from.
Hey, now I don't
In
want
fact,
to.
what's cool?
Yeah, can I
Yeah.
just come in here? I shared a
Yeah,
second
yeah.
link. I think the one
Yes.
you shared is about the tag, and I believe the follower feed for Pioneer Support is the link I shared. Is that right? Are we
You're
all
dead right. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, you're dead right. I made a mistake, and thank you for correcting that. This second feed at Pioneer supporter/feed is the correct feed. And you can see here that this is what's cool. That I visited Berlin's Brezelwagen and paid Hive dollars. Here's my review, right? That means this person just bought something from one of the businesses that we onboarded at Guadalajara, and they paid with HBD, and they've claimed a discount. And this is Pepo Velez. He did that 1 hour ago. So I'm actually going to vote for that now, Because it's going
Well,
to be so cool when these people use the system and then see they're getting votes, you know?
well, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm looking here. This is pretty incredible. Of all these names, I mean, it's like three people posted within the last like 10 minutes. The it's if all these names are. But wait a second. Some of these names are I recognize as IBB Tammy. That's a user that was on already. That's not a.
Yeah, some of these people are like people that we just trust anyway. So we've put them on because we know they're doing work for the community.
Okay. Okay.
Like
So
one of the
Liberty
people was
Crypto 27. I see.
yeah. There's a few on here that are like long-term established Hivians, but that's because they've
All
done
right.
onboarding work in some way, shape, or form for this system already. One
Now,
was
not to
called
be too finicky, but let me just hit you with this. Like, so how? Okay, because this is how do I distinguish just straight? Like, is there any way for me to distinguish just straight Talentland
newbies.
onboarders? How would I
Um,
separate?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that
I want to
entirely
step
right
in.
now.
Yeah, let me step in here because Buttcoins, you're being way too finicky, bro. You know that less than 3 weeks ago, this didn't exist, and we asked for it, and they made something with the tools that
Hey,
exist. It's not
I'm
perfect,
I'm I'm pleased. I'm
but
pleased.
you can't distinguish it right now very well. And so we're looking at the other thing that we've noticed, this ecency feed is a trending algorithm. It's not a new
Yeah, you
algorithm.
can't do new. Yeah, it'd be
But
great if you could do new.
but
Yeah.
I see that this is a way, it's a solution to the problem, almost perfect, almost couple of things, but with the tools we already have. So what would you do if you were running an event? You'd create a new account. You'd make sure to follow just those people that are related to that event. And then you leave it alone, and that would then ensure what you're saying. We can either talk to Ecency team, or we can do something with half or something with a private node. We could set up feeds that display the same information from the same nodes, the same blockchain in a different algorithm. We don't have it yet, but we can do that. So this is totally a step in the right direction. I'm going to agree with Buttcoins. It's
Absolutely.
not perfect. But bro,
It's not
lay off.
perfect.
Starkerz, man, he got this out in like 2 weeks.
You're never gonna get me to lay off. I'm looking for the easiest flow, easy. But I agree. It's a huge step in the right direction. I 100% agree with that.
I mean, for example, just to fully solve your problem, what we could do is if they onboard through the app, and the issue here is that there is an element of trust, right? But the idea is that there's people on chain that have got reputation to lose. So if they break that trust, then there could be community just damage to your reputation that you've built over years. So we're relying on that basically to say, hey, these people are trustable. They're at events. The events are documented. They're on chain. You can see the people that they're onboarded via the onboard selfie photos. So there's some element of accountability. And then what we could do is we could add a little tag to that onboarding blog that's like that you could then, the front ends could put a little flag next to them to say which event they were onboarded from. That's possible. It's just not been built yet. So we really could nail that down really quite solidly. But for now, like I'm looking here, Yeefrog is definitely someone that onboarded during the event. Trumilanesa is also one. Jose Pimpo didn't, but he's on the feed. But I think great if he's on the feed. He's one of the most influential people in South America. One Zeti was an old Hivian that came back to Hive because of our stand, and he's re-onboarded and is now posting a lot. Gerardo Shogun, I think he came second place in the prize that we did, so he's now posting, and I see his blog's got $8. These are all where prior to this system they wouldn't have ever got well, maybe they would have got 1 or 2 votes, but they'd have been posting, and to try and just follow 280 accounts alone, it's almost impossible to go through and click on each one manually every day and check to see if they uploaded or anything. But this feed does all of that for you. It's not ideal. I would like it to be a new feed rather than a trending feed, but it does a pretty good job so far of what we need. and that is to help these new users get some votes when they come on and post.
So I don't know.
Which is more the reason why I'm kind of drilling into it, is because
Yeah.
I literally want to go and support them, and I want to make sure that I'm
Sure.
actually supporting people that were at Talentland, you know?
Sure. It's like, for example, Leo Finance is on this feed. I'm just looking, and Roland P as well. But it's because they were reblogged by Juan Zetti and they were reblogged by Gerardo Schaugen. So even the reblogs of the new users are coming up on this feed. I don't know whether that's good or not, but
yeah. So I
it's
just
feed's
want to
structured.
tap into this, because what the idea would be before the next event or next Hive Hub, which we may get around to talking about today, where we could bother Buttcoins about whether these feeds are right or not. What we need to do, so we see this right now. Berlin's reblogged Patty GF.
Yeah.
And then Patty, obviously, he's onboarding her. She buys a beer with the SpendHBD. That's her first post. And so, this feed is something that existed. It's something, this was cobbled together with tools that already existed. One thing that I would do is I would try to ask for a feed, a cleaner feed. So maybe, we don't use Pioneer support for every event, or maybe we do, but we use another account for each event individually. And then
Pioneer support can follow those.
Yeah. And then we create a cleaner feed that's new to old instead of trending, and doesn't include reblogs. These are very minor things in the code, really. In fact, we might be able to even, because ECC is open source, if we need to, we may be able to spend a couple hours and get it built ourselves. We haven't obviously done that yet, but if we were going to do like a hotel event in Guatemala, maybe there'd be a few bucks to dedicate to a coder to do that. Somebody would say, this is worth $100 because we saw the experience at Talentland, and this $100 is going to make it so much better for people that want to support, XYZ things that we're doing now.
Exactly that. And I genuinely do think that, we can get better at this and tweak it and things, but this should, because it's got this check-in app and it's checked in with a credible Hivian, there's then that account immediately becomes more credible. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be people that abuse the system as well, right? But we can just remove them from the lists if they keep abusing the system. So in this way, I think that the retention is going to go up massively of real users, real people that were onboarded at real events. And because they've got this spending capability now, if we do at each event onboard a couple of businesses, then they're going to be able to mine the Hive from the blockchain and spend it into the businesses, get their cash back, and it'll all get supported through this feed. And then, of course, any other content that they make, if they decide to make general blogging content or general content, then they'll get supported there as well, because we know they're real people that were onboarded at an event, and not just at the events, but I think it goes further than that. What's stopping, if Buttcoins meets someone tomorrow who's really cool and they want to come into Hive, and they do a little check-in blog with Buttcoins, and then from that point forward, Buttcoins doesn't need to worry about curating them, because he knows every time they post they're going to get curated because they're part of this system. That's
gold.
Yeah, that's like leveraging the other whales on the Hive's account voting power. Sorry, the other whales on Hive's voting power. It's like leveraging their vote just because you onboarded a person. You don't even need to use your vote. Of course you would, but if you end up onboarding 300 people, how do you keep track of them? But if you put them on this feed, they'll be kept track of by the people curating the feed. So you're really able to leverage the other whale votes in the ecosystem to help your newbies that you've onboarded, and they're going to come back and say, "Hey, I'm really getting votes for this stuff."
Let's give Meno a chance here. Come on in, Meno. What is on your mind, brother?
I love what I'm hearing. This is awesome. This is exciting. And honestly, as I was thinking of my question, or what I wanted to say, it was getting answered by Starkerz. I guess the only part that's left, because as you guys know, I've been onboarding people, and I'm gonna hit it hard. That this is I don't know how long I can keep this up, but I'm gonna try to as long as I can. And today I onboarded a business, and here I am thinking this is going to be the beginning of something, because it can be my hub. This is the first business that's going to take HBD, and whatnot, and locally, and it's gonna be great. But I was afraid, like, okay, I don't want to miss these posts. I don't want these people to post into the void and get no support. So I want to know. I guess the only question left, because you basically answered it, Matt, is how do I get them on the feed? Like, what is the step-by-step procedure to get them on that feed so that it doesn't matter if they're not tagged with me. I don't care about that. I want them to become Hivians. How do I put them on there so they get support?
Well, my proposed way may be different to other people's, but I'm going to propose this and then see where it lands. So my opinion is that there's a bunch of people that turn up to Hive regularly, right? You know, almost everyone in this room I know of, right? And I'm pretty sure that everyone here wouldn't abuse the system. And if they did, there'd be community consequences, because the community would be like, what the fuck? So it's like everyone in this room could go on that list as a trusted Hivian. And of course, there's many other people across Hive that are regular Hivians, clearly demonstrated that they're committed to the community, and so are very unlikely to abuse this. And then it's like we can add all of them to the system so that anytime they onboard someone and do a check-in through this check-in system, then they automatically go on that feed. They'll be seen, and then they'll go on the feed. You won't need to propose it, as long as you're one of the people that is trusted. Just anyone that you onboard will go on the feed, and then, you know, I'm not saying it's going to happen straight away where they're going to get a vote 2 seconds after they've onboarded, but maybe later on that day they'll probably get added, and then from that point forward they get curated.
I'm probably being an idiot right now, but I am. Eco said something to me yesterday, and he was on point. He said, Meno, you can get them to do the first post because you're there with them and you're kind of guiding them, and you know, they see your excitement and all that stuff. The second one is hard. The third one is even harder because you're not there anymore. So, and he messed with my head, but he's so right. I'm like, man, you're so right. So I've been telling everybody that I've been onboarding, and all the people that I haven't onboarded yet, but I'm talking to, it's like, my promise to you is that if I miss you and I see, and you put effort and there's something you're proud of, you're like, shit, I put a lot of work in here and you didn't get a vote for me. Call me, send me a text, because I'm human and I may miss it. And I want you to know that, you know, that I care. Yeah, so that might be kind of dumb for now. And because maybe I'm dealing with like 14, 15 people right now. Maybe it's okay. But if it gets up to the 100 and I want to get up there, that's not going to be sustainable. So,
exactly that. And what you're able to do with this is leverage that support out to the wider community.
This is great.
And it's in the community's interest to curate these feeds, because there's just a bunch of newbies that are coming in, you know. And then the next step is, you know, I haven't done this myself, but I know that lots of other people are passionate about this type of thing. Is like, what 10 tasks can we give a newbie that result in a blog each time that they say, hey, I just logged into XYZ platform and posted, or I just voted for some witnesses and here's my post. I just spent HBD and here's my post, right? Like, there's loads of things that we can do like that to teach them how to, you know, I just played my first game of Splinterlands and here's my post, right? And get them to explore the whole ecosystem of Hive for the next 2 months or so with a set of simple tasks. And again, they all go on the feed and they're going to get curated, because it's in all Hivians' interest to make sure that these Hivians are getting rewarded for doing these tasks that teach them about Hive. And then at the other end of that, if we can see there's a bunch of people that, you know, there's going to be some people that are like, do the tasks better. There's going to be some people that earn more Hive because they're producing better quality content. There's going to be some people that didn't power down a single cent and they're committed to building stake, right? It's like those types of people, they're starting to look like real, like badass Hivians after 2 or 3 months of this, right? And then there's initiatives like Appy's Hive that Live in UK Taiwan's doing. And what she does is she puts these types of people, it's not the exact same criteria, but we can align it somehow. She puts them through a program where she's just teaching them about Hive in general, but after a certain point, she'll give a few of them delegations. Now, the amount of Hive power that she has is quite low at the moment. But what my thinking is, maybe it's Appy's Hive, maybe it's another program, but after they come out of these 10 tasks, the good ones then go into a program where, as they reach certain milestones over the next few weeks, they get an ever-increasing delegation. So that after, say, a 3 to 6 month period, we've identified the newbies that are good, that are posting, that are accumulating stake, that are taking part in Hive, and then out the other end they come and they've got like 500, 1,000, 2,000, maybe 5,000 delegations as well. Well, at that point, you found your Hivians, right? You found legit people, and they've got delegations, and it's the right people. And maybe those delegations don't last forever, but they last long enough for them to build a bit of a stake. And then once the delegation's removed, you got, for that person then to cash out. All right, fair enough, but it's going to be very unlikely that you'll probably have a Hivian for life at that point. So that's what we're trying to build here.
Yeah, these are all these necessary loops. You got to keep closing these loops and these options to keep people in the initial nurturing stage. I think it's a piece that's been missed and often. And so if we are going to just drill and just beat this dead horse for just a split second. So we've got currently we've got the Pioneer follow feed. So this is and Meno was asking, like, how do I get on that? And I didn't fully understand your response. Because he just onboarded like 7 people in the last like week, and we know that they're legit people. Like, how specifically does he get their names on this Pioneer thing as well, even though they weren't part of Talentland, but they're in this? How would they get into that?
Yeah, so I shouldn't really post this, but I'm going to trust you guys aren't going to like flood it or try and break it. But this is currently under development, this link. It's not a final product, so don't try and use it yet. But have a little login to that. You can log in with Keychain, and you'll see there's a selfie. It says take a selfie. We'll probably change the wording on it a little bit. But the idea is that it's a check-in with system. So you can check in with a Hivian and maybe take a selfie with them or do a little blog. We even, on Talentland, we had people that didn't want to show their faces. So we covered their face, but we still took a selfie, right? It's still proof that they're human, right? And then once that's, basically it's very simple. You just sign in, you take the photo, maybe write something about yourself, and you tag the Hivian who onboarded you, right? Who you checked in with. Right. And then, and I think we use this at Talentland. Voltec probably did, who's in the room. All the guys at Talentland use the beta version of this, the testing version of this, right? And it works. And then what happens is it's just one click after that. There's no like thinking of the title, because the title's obvious. I checked in with this Hivian, right? They don't need to change the title. The tags are obvious, right? You can tag. We'll put like introduce yourself as one of the tags, for example. So it'll go on the introduce yourself post. Boom, it gets posted to Hive. And because we have our system that we've been using for Distriator with the instant discounts, we're applying the same technology to send instant HBD and Satoshis to that user. So when you onboard a user now and then you get them to check in with you, once they click send, they'll get instant HBD and instant Satoshis. So this is a talking point for you to now go onboard Hivians and be like, hey, do you want some free Bitcoin? Or hey, do you want some free stable coins that are outside the ecosystem? Check in with me. Come and take a selfie. Boom, they get the Hive account. They take the selfie, and then boom, they get some Hive to their account. That's very, very powerful, and it gives everyone more of a talking point to go onboard people. And then from that point, that's when they go on the feed. Well, there is one other thing that needs to happen. We've modified the text slightly so that you, as the onboarder, have to comment in that blog and say, "Hey, yes, I checked in. We checked in." And the moment you do that is when the crypto gets sent. And then I'd like to automate this, but we haven't done that yet. But once we've got that tag, and we can see XYZ person was onboarded, checked in with XYZ Hivian. If that Hivian's on our list of people that we trust, then they'll go on the feed, and that's how you get on that feed.
So just a quick question. So I did it all. I signed in. So I'm in here at the take the selfie page, and it says skip to dashboard. So it says check in with .xyz. And are you saying that the dot will always be XYZ, or that will be like Buttcoins because it's an accepted user? Or
That's interesting.
Or
No, it'll probably remain as .xyz. It's just the URL.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
when they check in and take the selfie, they will write your username. There's a little step that says who checked you in, right?
Mhm.
And so then they write your username in, so they'll write Buttcoins, and then once it goes on chain, it says it in the title. It just automatically says I checked in with Buttcoins. Right?
And just to understand really quick, this is what they're doing after you've onboarded them. So they already have an account at this point, and this is their first
Yeah,
post. Is this the idea?
correct. Yeah, so you would have
Great.
done something like downloaded keychain to their phone, and then there's a really simple system where you click onboard with a friend, and as long as you, as the friend, have 3 Hive in your account and a little bit of Hive power to delegate to them, onboarding's expensive resource-wise, so you have to make sure you've got some powered up Hive. Then you can onboard them just by scanning a QR code on their keychain, and boom, it gives them an account, onboards them. It's very seamless, and then from that account, they can then log in to this site and make their first post with you as a check-in, and it will be in the introduce yourself post. So they can maybe write a little thing about themselves. Hey, I'm this person, I do this. It's supposed to be very short and very, very fast.
So this feels like, bridging as we start kind of making these bridges into the Hive Hub conversation. This just feels very natural at a front desk reception. It literally is check in while they're checking in.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I was so interested to do the project with you in Guatemala, because this is the perfect application for a hotel or anywhere that you arrive at that you've made a booking at to go and visit. But to test it out in your business, in a real business over this summer would be so powerful, in my opinion, because we can imagine the photos that we're going to have all these people that are legit travelers, newbies checking into a Hive hotel. And then once they make the check-in, the system automatically sends them enough Hive to buy their first beer and some Bitcoin, right? And then from that point forward, now they're using the system because they're going to want to spend the Hive to buy the beer or the drink or whatever it is. And they're going to get some cash back when they do that. It's crazy. It's going to be so cool. And then they're going to be on this feed. So if they're around town posting, I might try a little Hive post that we talked about in that workshop that we did. And they do it, and then, they get some votes, and you weren't even there to help them. It's going to be a clicking moment for people where they're like, oh, shit, I'm posting here and I'm getting rewards. Like, yeah, it could be so powerful. It could be so powerful.
Absolutely, and for me personally, this is what I'm most excited about is really taking this to a real business. I'm really doing it. But before we really kind of make this full crossover, let's put a tail on the Talentland. And I think Eco has something to say.
Yeah.
So let's let Eco jump in and kind of put a little bit of a cap and start putting those strings into moving forward. Yeah, go for it.
I appreciate you, Bud. Thank you so much. And these are some of the tools, of course, that we were putting together in a row. And so we touched on, what does an onboard mean? There's a series of activities we did with these people. And this was number 2. This was after the account creation, maybe depending on how you count. You had to download the Keychain app and put the account you created into the Keychain app. And this step came. And it was one of the tools in that chain that I said, I need a skin of this. I need to have my version. And it looks like Starkerz with Sagar, they're already working on this. This is fantastic. I'm going to reach out to Sagar and just ask, if he's got a little JSON package, I could just do the Spanish translation right away. The site would always be from that domain, but possibly a future development, pretty easy with URL, would be check-in with .xyz/Buttcoins, and you could possibly have it auto-filled out who you're with.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
But these things these are small developments. I'm going to reach out to Sagar and mention the Spanish thing because there's not a lot of words here. I mean, I could probably do it in 5 minutes if he sent me the package, you know. This is amazing. And these are the types of things you can already see these guys' minds working for people like me. And this is the perfect bridge to people like Buttcoins, you know, like as we take these back to our home countries, these lessons, and we start to improve the tools, see what we're working with, how can we make it better? You know, we want to, you know, maybe learn new lessons, but also make sure we're tuning up all of these tools. And Manu Foto says, of course, Hive P2P, the first language is Spanish, which, of course, that's another tool. Shout out just real quick here to Manu. Manu, I met up with him in Guadalajara. We talked. We did a demonstration on Hive P2P. I said, Manu, I need Colombian pesos on the app. And we talked a little bit, and he put it in the app. And now Colombian pesos is one of the, even though you could do any, he's got an open bid system where you can kind of use any currency. Now Colombian pesos is one of the official currencies in the Hive P2P app. And that doesn't just happen. That happens because we got these Hivers together, all working with the tools, all the tools at the same time.
If it'd be all right, I'd just like to finish off going through this Talentland blog, because I think it's really important for the way we do events on Hive, and I think it might be food for thought for people. So just to try and quickly go through this, we were at the KPI part. So the next part was the presentation that we did, which again, you can copy all those slides. They're all, you know, we'll make them public. None of those are mine or anything. I'll make them available to anyone. The next thing that we talk about are the potential leads. So there's a bunch of leads there, and you can read about them all here. There's some really amazing stuff. One of my favorite ones was there's a gaming system that want to live stream to Hive, and they want to integrate upvotes into Hive, and maybe we can even get Hive to pay for some sponsorship for their prizes and awards. And this is big. Like, a lot of people watch this stuff. It's like live competitive gaming. And so there's a whole world there. There's a bunch of other things. I won't spend any time going into them here, but there's so much cool stuff in the leads section. Then we talked about the Talentland feeds. There's a bunch of photos there. These are all the onboarding selfies. And then we've got the league table of the Hivians who onboarded the most new people. So that's really cool, because we can gamify that on Hive. So if you go to an event and you onboard the most people, we took the liberty of taking about $300 out of the budget and paying that between these people, because like people like Eddie onboarded 58 accounts, which is crazy.
Link. Osamar, I think you have an open mic. Osamar, yeah, thank you. All right, there we are.
It's baseline. And then Eddie's even put the Hive SQL that we use to track this onboarding data. And then the last couple of sections here are about, you know, blogs, because you want to provide evidence on chain, and every time someone provides evidence of the things that they did, they get votes. So you're monetizing the evidence of the things that you did. So there's a little section about the onboarding workshops that we did, and a link to a blog there. There's another workshop that we did in El Sentido, which was put together by EcoInstant. And there's evidence there. And of course, this all comes with the Hive debit card as well. So when they finish the onboarding process, you can give them the debit card, and it doesn't have to have the Hive debit logo on it. Because this is an open source programmable debit card, you can add your own logo to these debit cards at the events, or the hotel check-in, for example. You can have a bunch of cards with the hotel logo on. We'll talk about that a bit later, separately, Buttcoins. And then there's a few posts of the recaps from the people that attended, that shows the evidence of the people they met, the potential contacts they met, the people they onboarded, their experiences. And then the last thing here is use of the debit card. And then, of course, the Pioneer supporter account that we've talked about. So I feel like that type of format, if we can get as many events on Hive as possible using that type of format, we can really improve the quality and the spending that we do on these events, and be very accountable, and people will start to trust the communal spending that's happening on Hive a lot more, and then see the actual results of it as well. So I do hope that we can take this model, and I'm not saying it has to be exactly this, but something like this should be a format for all communal paid events, at least, and other funded items on Hive, I think.
Well, I appreciate it happening, and I agree with you that this is a clear model moving forward and can keep being adjusted. But yeah, I think it makes you feel good about Talentland. There's very clear metrics, and so why wouldn't what would be the reason to not do this for other things? So
Yeah.
it's quite obvious.
And the other thing I'd like to do, and we don't have to do it now, but if you have some time, I'd really like to go into the spreadsheet that's the budget to show everyone in this call and whoever listens to this separately what we spent the money on, where we made savings, and why we spent money where we did, and where we didn't spend money where we maybe could have. You know.
Well, we're in this right now. I mean, can you hit the key points in say 4 to 5 minute thing and nail the things that you think are the most important bits that people need to know?
Yeah, sure. To try and keep it top level, but I'm clicked into the actual budget now. So if everyone's following along, you can click at the top of the blog there. There's a link to the budget, and it's a spreadsheet. And it's got the first column B, C, D, E are estimations that we thought we would have to spend. And then column F, G, H, and I are the actual spendings with invoice numbers attached. And the invoices are in the blog, so you can go see the invoice. And they've got links on the blockchain to where we've reimbursed people, so you can go and click the transactions on the blockchain. And then column K, L, M are what we thought we had to spend versus what we actually spent, and then the saving percentage next to each one. So we spent $1,500 on accommodation, and that was for 12 people for about 7 days on average. Some people stayed a little bit longer, some people a little bit less. Let's say 7 to 8 days to be there a couple of days early and to leave a couple of days after, so that we had time to do meetings with people and workshops and had time to prepare for the event. So I thought that was a great deal. The accommodation costs in Guadalajara, $1,500 for everyone for 13 people, was quite impressive in my opinion. And then the flights, I tried to cap the flights as much as possible to about $450 for per person. And if it was more than that, then I asked that person to try and fund it themselves, so that we didn't go crazy with the flight spending. And because I think part of the strengths of Hive is that it's everywhere. So we have local people. We should be trying not to fly people around the world and spend too much money on travel, because we generally have a Hive in almost every city. So we should try as much as possible to send the local Hive in where possible. And so we spent $3,200 on flights and transport. So again, bear in mind, this is for 13 people. This is kind of impressive in my opinion. Then on the Hive debit cards, we spent $2,600. So that was basically getting the cards made and putting a little bit of free Hive, or HBD and Bitcoin in this case, on the cards for the users that came and signed up with us, and then we'd be able to send that out. So some of it was done manually by people like Greenmaster, Conchix, Eddie, Manu, and Alex Rourke. They used their own money and then claimed it back. And then some of it was done automated when the app was working. And of course, Brian of London and Sagar behind the scenes were making that app work as much as possible during the event. And that represented a 52% saving, because we thought we were going to spend a lot more money on that. So that was really cool. The next part was the merch. So we spent $1,600 on merch, and that included stickers, a bunch of lanyards, the prizes for the first, second, and third places, which were some beautiful Edge Wallet sleeves. And then we engraved those with the Hive logo, so they looked fantastic. We had a bunch of hoodies. This is key. I think the hoodies were really good, because we had like relatively provocative statements on the back of the hoodies about how we do feeless DeFi, what isn't your DeFi feeless, and why are you still paying blockchain transaction fees and things like this, right? So you can try and get conversations going from what's written on the back of your hoodie. Then we bought a bunch of t-shirts and bracelets. So that all came to $1,600. And again, that was for 13 people plus 200 t-shirts for the people that we gave the t-shirts away to or sold to. And then the Talentland sponsorship package was $17,600. So that was our main expense. But we could have spent a lot more money. We could have spent about up to 35 grand on that, and it would have been really good value for money. Like, we'd have had a hackathon included, would have had much more sponsorships and stage time. But my whole point here was to buy the cheapest possible package and get as many Hivians there as possible, because I thought that was more valuable. As it turned out, we ended up with a nice bargain where we got a main stage presentation as well. So we did get some benefit on top of what we really paid for. But that stuff is not cheap. And to me, if we'd have gone into 36 grand, 35 grand where they wanted us to spend, our cost per sign up would have been more like $150. So I think that's why the KPIs are good. And then the booth was an absolute steal. We thought, like, some of the booths, as Eco Instant was mentioning, some of the booths were like 10 grand booths, man. They were so expensive. They were like multi-floor with speakers in and TVs and presentation rooms in them. It was crazy. And our booth was the cheapest booth in the event, but it didn't look bad. I don't think anyone was like, oh, that's a cheap looking booth. And we got our booth total all in, including installation and dismantling costs and designs and printing. We got it for $750, and there was a lot of help from Enrique88 and Sam Gisset on the design, so shout out to them. And anyone else that needs a booth designing at their event, please have a chat to those guys, because they've already got a lot of pre-done designs for Hive. And so that came in 65% under budget, because we thought we'd be spending probably $2 grand on that, but we spent $750. And shout out to Eddie as well for spotting the deal there and getting that sorted. And so overall, you scroll a bit further down, it was as a result of 19% savings on what we budgeted for, and we returned about 3,700 back to the DAO, 3,600 back to the DAO, to value plan. And then there's the bottom part is the KPIs and a bunch of evidence linked to what we're talking about, those KPIs. So you can see a bunch of blogs that talk about which businesses we signed up. You can see all the feed where all the signups happened, and you can see a bunch of blogs where all of our potential leads are discussed in the blogs themselves from Hivians. And I hope that budget helps other events to organise and other events to understand how to plan for budgets and what should be included and what doesn't, and then go from there,
Oh yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I would love to say that we could compare it to 5 others and see how you but you guys took the first step, and here we are with a classic example of how it should be moving forward.
Yeah, I'd love to say, come and challenge the $97 per sign up and see if you can beat it, Might be quite interesting to see what we can do.
Yeah, a little competition between the conferences. It was great.
Yeah.
So why don't we, like, if as we bridge, like, I guess my bridging question would be, so your experience at Talentland, what of the things that you were doing there and had first hand experience doing there do you think applies to onboarding at a hotel?
Well, I think it's the same basic process. And if we can, at some point during this call, I'd like to touch on what I think we could do better at Talentland as well, how we can improve it. But as far as the hotel goes,
go for it.
To me, it's as simple as, and like you were saying, I think it's a very good point that maybe they're coming, they're very, very tired, right? So you don't want to like push Hive on people that have been traveling for hours, right? But if a hotel's running workshops on maybe a daily or every other day basis, you can say, hey, if you're not interested in signing up now, you're welcome to attend the workshop that we run every day. There'll be a free beer or whatever, or a free drink, and you can come and spend half an hour and find out about what Hive is and how you can save a load of money from using it and how you can blog and make rewards. And then either at the reception desk itself, if they're up to it, or if they want to go to the workshop later, they can simply use the onboard with a friend on Keychain. We can open them an account. Then they can do the check-in blog, at which point they'll get a little bit of free crypto that they can spend at the hotel, and some Bitcoin, and they'll be then checked in to the trusted Hivian process, which will put them on Pioneer Supporters follow list. And then from that point, we can show them, hey, here's a room that you can come and ask questions in, maybe a Telegram room or a WhatsApp room. And then hopefully by that time, we'll have a bunch of other businesses around the town that already accept HBD as well. And we can give them a little map that says, here's places you can go to spend you can spend HBD at these places. You can buy your evening meal here, and you can get, I don't know, 5, 10, 20% discount back, depending on how much you spend. And then here's a bunch of instructions that you can do to understand how to blog and mine. If you blog about the hotel and your experience here, you'll be rewarded for it, and then you can use that money to spend in the town. So it's an interesting possibility, and we're going to learn a lot. There's lots of things that we don't know yet, that as we do it, we'll probably learn, we could do this better, we could do this way. But I think that's how it applies generally. Yeah, it's very, very exciting.
Well, so, I'll tell you, just thinking in terms of the back to this lowest hanging fruit thing, and like my brain thinks in the realm of okay, well, I'm already running this tangible business, and we already have the process that we're doing. And the piece of this process, the thing that has gotten me the most excited, and I think where Hive has a real potential to solve a specific problem to here in Guatemala, is that HBD card, and this idea that the right at check-in, whether you sign into Hive or not, you can load up a card with HBD. That card only ever is translating to the currency of Guatemala is called quetzales. So basically, they will hand us quetzales. HBD will actually be purchased, but then when the any purchase that happens in the hotel, whether it be at the lower cafe or the upper cafe, or they buy a burger, or they want to pay for their next day's room, and they've already put money onto this card, well, this card will be spending in quetzales, and it eliminates a real problem here, which is change. So it's really hard to keep change. So this idea that somebody can arrive at the reception, and we can say, whether we want to say that it's Hive or not, it doesn't matter to me. It's hey, we have a currency here we have a card here on the property, and if you load it up, you can put 100Q, 200Q, 300Q on it, and then you can one tap wherever you're at on the property. Is a usable tool, and nobody even needs to know that it's Hive unless we want them to know.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, they'll be, because it's tap to spend, they'll be able to use it without knowing it's Hive, unless they want to take it to the next level and mine currency because of their blogs or whatever. But it's really getting to that point. The other thing I'd like to say that would improve both the event process and potentially the hotel check-in process is, you're going to have warning, and the event is going to have warning or pre-notice of who these people are, because they're going to be sending them tickets, or in your case, a booking notice to the user before they even arrive. So then what I'd like us to get to the point, and we're not there yet, but maybe this is going to happen a little bit later, but there's nothing stopping us then from putting an onboarding link onto the tickets of the events, right? So if we're sponsoring an event and we're putting, say, $17,000 into an event, we should be able to say to that event, hey, can you add this link to your tickets, please? Right? And the link is just simply, it's a whole Hive onboarding link that's got your username on it. Enrique can create a bunch of tickets for the event so that people can get free Hive accounts. And because they're being done through the tickets, we know they're real people. And then they can click and get a Hive account before they even arrive to the event. And then maybe there's a separate link on that ticket that says, if you want to mine Hive before you even come to the event, follow these tasks or follow these instructions. And there's a bunch of instruction blogs as to how they can onboard themselves to Hive, post a few blogs, earn a few Hive. So they turn up to the event with Hive in their account before they even speak to us, right? I think that's going to be very useful. And then we can make the event a breakaway community platform so that they can have their own platform. So the event's going to love that. And we're going to be saying to the event, look, we're going to be putting money into the hands of your users before they even arrive to your event. I think that's very, very useful for the events. It's a very powerful value proposition, especially if we're sponsoring the event. Same thing for the hotels then. There's no reason you couldn't do a similar process for the hotels. So before they even check in, they've already been presented with the idea that they can have a Hive account and they can mine cryptos to their account before they even come.
Well, this is really fascinating. I mean, that we already have an aspect of this automation already happening. You go on, and whether you go through bookings or you go straight through our booking engine, because we have one that's better for us if they use that, because then we don't get charged the bookings fee or Hostel Worlds fee or Expedia fee or whatever. But no matter where they go to, they get an automatic message that gets sent, and then we know the date that they have booked for, and then 3 days before their arrival they get another message, and this is just already happening. So it seems pretty easy that there could be a link in there.
And the other thing as well, if you think about it, you could have two prices. One's like for the standard price, and one is for a price with discount spending included inside the hotel. So maybe they pay an extra $30 or $50 on top of their hotel price, but they're going to get guaranteed discount spending. So that particular booking, maybe the room rate that they're paying for is $100, but they buy the $130 ticket, and so when they check in, before they even check in, they get a Hive account that's got $30 on it. Right.
Well,
so
now you're talking like the motivation, and you're always on this, and I love it. That it's just like reward the action. Hey, 5% off of your stay, sign up here. And if they don't fucking care, if they're like, oh, I don't care about this, like, I don't want an extra 5%. Then, well, we know that piece. We even know that piece when they arrive. They didn't do the pre thing, but yeah, this is brilliant. So they're already sort of onboarded before they even arrive. It's like
exactly,
and they've already been paid for performing the action of signing up.
I mean, imagine. I'm not saying we're going to get there anytime soon, but we can get to a place where the act of booking the hotel creates them a Hive account and publishes a blog to Hive, which is already on the Hive Pioneer supporter list, which gets them a vote, which by default gives them a discount to the booking. Right? It's like the potential is insane, in my opinion. Same for tickets. Same for tickets to events as well. Same thing. It's like if you buy a ticket and then you follow this link through and follow the process of this link, it's effectively a check-in blog. You don't even need to check in with the Hive link because you checked in through an event that we're sponsoring. That's good enough for us. You checked in through a hotel that we're sponsoring. That's good enough for us. We don't need you to check in with Starkerz or anything. So now you're already on the list. You're already getting discounts for your spending before you even got to the hotel or to the event.
And so, we have, I want to take a little brief moment and just say, like, we've put in a ton of work. I mean, honestly, like Starkerz, we talked about this, like we're nearly 2 years from when we were really hatching this and being like, this is what Hive needs. Hive needs a place where we really put these tools to the test and we go for it. And here we're at the doorstep of it. Nina Luthier is here in the chat.
Nice to see Nina. Nice to see her. Yeah.
And she is, today looking at prices of flights with coming in on sometime between like 5th, 6th, 7th. And Articush, I've messaged him. He said he's still jumping on. He's like on his way here. You're on your way here. My daughter's literally training right now to learn. And this is happening. And holy shit, I just hope Hive realizes what a potential this is for us to learn, to fail, to fix, correct, to all be in one place, working in a real business, really onboarding and seeing where we can take this. It's just yeah. I get overwhelmed with excitement.
Yeah, like part of this as well is the realization that you don't need to have stake on Hive to do something that's cool for the community and then go lobby other Hivians to support what you're doing, right? Like, I think a lot of people in the past, myself included, I thought, well, what can I do with my stake? It's not that much, But as you start to build tools that benefit everyone in the community, you have a case to go and say, hey, can you support, Pioneer Supporter? We want people to follow that vote so that they can also support newbies coming in through this system. And it won't be perfect. It's not going to be foolproof, but it's going to be a darn sight better than some of the curation mechanisms we couldn't currently have. And it'll certainly be a nice added option. And so it's like, yeah, we're doing something valuable here. We're going to try and create a HIVE Hub Hotel. We maybe by the end of the 3 months we'll get to a point where we've got that link on the tickets, on the booking emails. We'll certainly have tested the whole process from start to finish. In terms of, ideally for me, it results in people leaving the hotel with HBD and going to other restaurants locally and spending it there without having to talk to us. I think that would be one of the goals for me. And if we can do that by the end of the 2 or 3 months that we're there, then there's no reason we couldn't then take that process and say, hey, we're going to replicate this in other places. And can you support us? Can HIVE support us? I don't have enough stake to do all that myself. You don't have enough stake to do all that yourself, but we have a credible process in place and it seems to work. And here's a place you can easily follow votes. So why not support it? And I think you've got a good case at that point to get a lot of other people to support what you're doing without you having to have a big stake yourself. I think that's a big lesson on HIVE that we can take from this, and maybe other initiatives can also benefit from the same type of thinking.
Absolutely. And here, me and Meno and Eco and you, we've been bouncing back and forth. And then, Meno here is creating his own like little hub in Ecuador.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that this thing is like when we start bringing these tools to the real world and we start onboarding around us and creating our own little hubs. It's infectious. It's a positive type of infectious.
See, the thing that I really love about this is that I think it comes from, for me, the fact that I've never been much of a blogger. I'm not really a content creator. I don't read very well. I don't write very well. And so I'm not really much of like a creative content person. But I can talk about HIVE, but I've never really had tools to, that I can wield on the onboarding process, apart from the only tool I've had is open an account. That's often very difficult. It's not so much anymore, but it's been difficult in the past. That already puts a lot of people off. And then it's, well, maybe if you post, you might get some votes. People are like, well, not everyone's a content creator. However, with a process like this, it empowers people like Meno, people like you, who, you guys create pretty decent content, to be fair, but you're not coders, right? I'm not a coder. But these tools give normal people like us the ability to go shill HIVE to people in a legit way. And then once they're onboarded, you just got some instant Bitcoin. You just got some instant HBD, right? You can go over here and spend it and get a discount. Let me show you how. That's where our skills really come to fruition compared to developers who, they like to code, they like to do what they do, and they're very good at it. But they're not necessarily the people who are going to be out there talking to people and showing this technology around, whereas you guys are, right? And I look in Nigeria at like Focus Now and Caleb Marvel. These guys, they're not coders, but they are shilling HIVE like crazy. I shouldn't say shilling because it's not. They're not. There's no scam involved. This is legit. Like they're just passionately evangelizing for it. And the reason that they can do it now is because tools like these give them the chance to like quickly onboard someone, demonstrate the technology, send them a bit of free crypto, get them on a list where they know they're going to be supported, right? All these things. So you can back up your words now. You don't need to say to people, maybe a whale's going to vote for you if you're lucky. It's like, no, if you're on this list because you checked in with me, you're going to be supported. That changes the mentality behind the way we think about onboarding to HIVE, and it gives us a lot more credibility, even if we don't have the stake to back it up ourselves. We're relying on a wider community stake and wider community support to do these things. I just think it's super exciting, super powerful, and I really hope that guys like Meno, who are very good talkers, very legit guys, very nice guys to speak to, they're going to be empowered by these tools, and it's just going to make HIVE a lot more powerful.
Well, the other piece of this puzzle is that it's like we are making a lot of these tools, and it's what you were saying is it's people coding separate of the actual process of the service. And so what we're doing is bringing the real service in with the tools, so that then we can also see, okay, what specifically is missing, and start making it easier and more fluid, and making it easier for somebody like Meno, who can be out there, so that we have this connection to the coder. I mean, I think that's one of the things that excites me, is that John can come, we can kind of land, get started, start getting moving, and then John can arrive, and then he can see the card working on the daily. And if there's some piece of that that's not working, right then and there, we can just try to resolve it.
Yeah.
So that's often what I'm seeing missing on Hive, is people are making great tools, but then the people that are actually using the tools don't have the feedback loop to make it actually easy and frictionless.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is going to be a constant, we can set up a constant incentivized feedback loop here, which is what really we should be trying to do as much as possible. I think up until this point, Hive's really been just a one-way street, with developers pumping technology in and kind of hoping that it's easy to use for people. And oftentimes that fails, because it's really hard for the coder to know what's easy and what isn't from the user's experience. It just is a fact of coding. But this type of thing is like, if you take it to what it really is, it's incentivizing and rewarding people for running the new tech and then feeding back and getting it fixed and making it as efficient as possible. And that's, again, this is another way that Hive can reward people without them having to be content creators, right? They can just demonstrate that they're trying to roll this technology out and doing the best that they can, and feeding back valuable feedback that developers could just never get on their own. That's priceless stuff. It's priceless stuff. The votes can't. The votes it's going to get isn't even going to come close to justifying the value of the feedback that we can give back to the coders in the community.
I'd like to ask Nina Eats here to jump on the mic and tell us a little bit about why do you want to come? What are your thoughts here coming to Guatemala?
Hey guys, thanks
Hey,
a lot for inviting me. Well, actually, it was Mini Gunner who told me about your project. I haven't read the post before, and we met in Grass in the bus party, and I was talking about the things that we are doing here in Spain. So we're just a new community. We're trying to get together people around here, and we have found that in Spain the problem is that there's people in Hive, but they don't know how does it works. they don't know how to use it. So we're trying, like, more than onboarding, teaching. So when I thought about your project, about the onboarding and then SpendHBD and all that, I think I'm a content creator. I know how to blog, and I know how to make people who doesn't know that try that way. So I think it's interesting to go there and trying to onboard people from zero and let them know that they can find a place here in Hive. And I would love to, because I love to teach. And well, it's like a new opportunity. I'm really committed to Hive. So if I can do something for that to work, I would love to. So I think that's all.
Yeah. Now we're just at the stage of booking the tickets, and then it's go Team Charlie.
I'd like to say as well, I think this is the first time we've spoken online, Nina. I think we met at HiveFest a couple of years ago, but
yeah, we see each other, but we didn't talk actually.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's great to see you take interest in this, and I really look forward to meeting you there. And listening to you speak, it's really interesting, because I don't know if you were in the room when we were talking about after we've onboarded some people, we need to send them to maybe 10 basic tasks that they can do.
Yeah.
And then because they're on Pioneer supporter list, at that point they'll get voted anyway for doing those tasks.
Yeah.
And by the time they finish those tasks, they will probably know a reasonable amount about Hive. Maybe one of the tasks is showing them how to vote for witnesses and why that's important, and then get them to write a blog once they've done that, documenting the fact that they've taken part in that and learned that. And
Yeah.
then we can vote
Actually,
the blog.
I was listening to you guys talking about it, and I was like, oh my god, a lot of newbies, and they don't know how to post because I'm curating also in world mapping, so we find a lot of people that they don't have that guidance since the beginning, and we're trying to teach them to find a way to help the people, but even better if it's since the beginning. And so that task idea you have, I think, is great, but it should be like plain for beginners, because as you say, no one knows how to start.
Yeah, totally agree.
Can I
I'm
add
not
something
much
to
of a
this?
well, just to say, I'm not much of a creator myself, but I'm sure people like you, Nina, would do a much better job than I can at putting together a nice set of tasks that we can send people to once they've checked into the hotel and say, hey, do you want to try these tasks? And then from that, we can get a lot of great feedback to make it really, really good. And just speed up the onboarding and the learning process of these people in the right way.
Go ahead, Meno.
I think this task idea is amazing, and you know what this reminds me of? I'm a gamer in recovery. Like I stopped gaming not because I don't like it, but because I love it too much, and I need to be a grown up. But one of the things that games get right, more so when they can be complex, is that they do these little mini games. I remember specifically there was a game I used to love called Starcraft, and it's a very difficult game to play. It's a strategy game. It's kind of based on Risk, but and then later on Red Alert and all this stuff. So you have to build. Actually, the game that Eco released is one of the grandfathers of StarCraft. So just like that game is very complex to play, but it started out, with very simple stuff. It started out like first thing, build two little was supply depots. So okay, you boom, you win first mission. So Starkerz is talking about this, and I'm thinking if this gets done in a way, and there's like a platform, let's call them an incubator platform of sorts with these tasks and what have you, they would have to get progressively harder. So maybe voting for witnesses is towards the end, but like the little task, obviously the rewards will be smaller. The first one maybe it's a selfie, but the second one could be, upload your first snap or something, something like that. So it becomes a little harder. And by the end, it builds up their self-confidence, and they're also now start to get it. It's like, oh shit, this is real. Like I can contribute something. I'm talking to people. Things are happening, and now you win an actual Hivian because. This solves the problem that Eco is talking about. The problem about like the first post is easy because you're there, and literally I've been sitting next to the person, and I go like, okay, type, and they go like, okay, they type slowly, and I say maybe you don't want to say that, because I'm there, or maybe you want to say this. But that's easy. They don't have it yet. The second one's hard. The third one almost. I don't know what the stats are, but I'm sure that if someone wants to look them up, most people just post once and then never again, and that's why we don't want. So if it gets gamified, I think this is the way to go. Like honestly, if you're asking me, one of the things I'm walking away with today here is this: like gamify the incubation of a Hivian, and then I do want Starkerz to say this, and a lot of amazing stuff has been said, but I feel that there might be some people out there, more so the ones that are getting a little bitter about the price of Hive, aside from the fact that I think they're being myopic. But I want to say this, or ask Stalker to talk about this. Why is it so important that we spend money, resources, effort, sweat and tears onboarding people? Why, like you were talking about, like, oh, traditional social media spends $300 and something. Why is it that it's okay to spend money to onboard people? Like, and I'm saying this, I'm setting it up because I want people to say to think why we all need to be on the same page, why we all need to be able to understand the importance of onboarding, and it sounds intuitive. It sounds kind of stupid for me to even pose that question, the one that I hope Starkerz can steal, man. But it's because I personally know of people that don't think that's important and think that I got a couple of DMs, thinking it's like, you're kind of wasting your time and resources, and you're not going to get paid for it and what have you. And so why is this like the most important, at least I think so, the most important thing that everybody could help with, and why?
Very interesting. I would never have looked at it as like the most important thing, but maybe it is, because it means that normal people like us who aren't technical people can get involved in the onboarding process, can get involved in evangelizing for Hive, not just by signing someone up and hoping they get blogging rewards, but by signing someone up and knowing they're going to get instant crypto, knowing they're going to get the full Hive experience instantly, knowing they're going to get put through a task process that teaches them about Hive, knowing they're being onboarded by credible Hivians. This is just, and then knowing that we can get community support. Well, I don't think you definitely got mine and Dan's support and 3Speak support, but we'll hopefully I'm sure that Acidio, who also does a lot of this type of curation, would be interested in this. So it's cool, and it means that normal people can get involved in the whole process. So for me, that's like the key thing, because it empowers the evangelizers. And when you say you don't get paid, by the way, you do get paid, because if you've onboarded a local business or you've onboarded the user and they go spend at the business and claim money, the instant discounts, you're going to get paid every time that happens. That's already built on Hive and working for like a year now. So literally you could onboard local people. Now you can run, there's a business reason for you to run workshops locally. Because if you've got a couple of businesses onboarded and you send those people to those businesses, every time they make a claim, you earn a few cents. You earn like 20 cents. So if you're pushing a lot of people through that business, you can turn that into $50, $100 a month of extra money that you didn't have before, right? And it starts to mount up. You onboard 3 or 4 businesses, put another few people through some workshops and keep referring, and you can really earn some money. And the system's already built to do that.
So let's we're at the hour and 35 mark. We were saying we were going to go an hour and a half. Why don't we wrap this up here in the next 5 minutes? We can continue to talk, but just to wrap up the official Jabber Talkie show, why don't we? I'll ask the question that Kitty Girl asked, and maybe you could respond to her with this, and then put a tiny little cap on it, and we'll end the show. So here, Kitty Girl asked, were most of the regular attendees at Talentland from Mexico, from Central America countries, or from locations worldwide? She's wondering about the outreach of the event itself. Was it mostly Mexicans, or was it the whole world?
There were foreigners there. There were quite a few like crypto type people there that weren't from Mexico itself. But it was probably, I'd say 97% Mexican and probably 80% Guadalajara, maybe 70% Guadalajara. But I like that as well, because it means we have had an effect locally. And a couple of these businesses that, the Berlin's Brezelwagen, which is a German beer bar in Guadalajara, that was an incredibly valuable onboard. He's German, but he lives in Guadalajara and he's got a business there. And he's now started onboarding his own people separate to us. And he's showing his clients how they can spend HBD in his bar and earn cash back. And people are using it. People are legitimately using it. And every time they spend there, he earns a little bit of money because he's the one that onboarded them. Boba Fett, who's a local Hivian, he's an Australian guy, but he's local to Guadalajara now. He's earning money every time people spend in that business because he's the guy that we credited for onboarding the business locally. And the same for another business, a guy called Kurt there. There's another business, I forget the name of it, El Sentido, I think it's called. That's another business that was onboarded, and that was directly because Boba Fett knew the guy that owns that, and he's Australian. They're both Australians. So there's lots of different people from around the world that have been touched by this event. But it definitely was really great for focusing attention locally. And I think now a lot of the Hive activity that comes from Guadalajara is going to come from those businesses. You see it already starting to
And,
happen.
and Starkerz, if we had to take the Talentland event and kind of boil it down to a few key realities, my question to you would be, what was your biggest takeaway? What surprised you in how well it worked, or how well it was received? Maybe also give us something that you thought was going to work perfectly but you had issues with. Give us your surprise highlight, and maybe one of your troubleshoot scenarios, and put a cap on the show with that.
Sure. What worked surprisingly well, I'll start off with what didn't work so well. I think we need to do better with the events that we sponsor to get them to do things that benefit Hive more. So now that we've got these tools, we should be reaching out to events that we sponsor long before the event happens and asking them to do things like, let us put a sign-up link on the tickets, or how much do we have to pay extra to get that to happen, right? And kind of pre-organize the event and have a little process that's like a checklist of all the things that you need to have in place for a typical event. Make sure they're all checked off. Make sure you've got the merch, you've got the prizes, you've got the Hive debit card ready. Make sure you've got the selfie check-in app set up. Make sure you've got a community for that event. Make sure, ideally, that you've got a breakaway community platform that shows the feed for that community on, so you can send that to the event and say, hey, look, we've made you a platform. These are all great ways to get a lot of value out of the event that we're still maturing on. What we did really well, in my opinion, was demonstrate that you don't need hardly any spending. You don't need to get the biggest, most expensive package or go to the most expensive events. What you really need is get yourself to the event so you have a presence at the event. In my opinion, probably the most minimal presence possible, and try and get as many Hivians there as possible. That's the key, in my opinion, is getting people on the ground and having them mingle and go around the event. That's probably the lowest cost way to get the maximum amount of return, because those people are going to spend the whole duration of the event speaking about Hive to various different people. And if you get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 12, 13 people to go, Hive often makes the stand look really busy just from the amount of people that can turn up to these things. And you can use Value Plan to fund a lot of the transport, the accommodation. They even pay a per diem so that people can get food when they're at these events. And it's pretty cool, and I think more of that. I want to see more of that, going to established events that have got big crowds, getting in as cheaply as possible and sending as many Hivians there as possible, and then documenting these KPIs to show the value for money that was created. And the last thing I'd want to say is, if you don't mind, I want to plug a book that Dan and I have written. It's in the final read-through phase right now. I'm going to spend this weekend and probably next weekend just incorporating people's comments. We've had some fantastic people read it already and help us out with a few comments. It's called The Digital Community Manifesto, and it's really a book about how Hive, and not necessarily Hive, but the way that Hive is set up, maintains decentralization for communities and allows communities to be free and independent and self-sovereign. And it really breaks down the whole Hive ecosystem as to what principles you need, what the layer 1 needs, why there's no fees and why that's important, what layer 2 needs to have, how to do governance on these things, how to attack the chain, how to defend the chain. We go into a bunch of these things and then giving examples of community on-chain storage versus off-chain storage. And all the ideas in this book are things that we want normal people to read from Hive so that they can take the arguments and go put those arguments to other people in blockchain who are talking about centralized ICO chains like they're the savior to the world, and say, hey, no, this is the way to do it, especially for social nuanced digital communities. And so, yeah, this book's taken us about 3 years to write, and it's 111 pages. But we think there's some key information there that if every Hivian at least had a basic knowledge about, we'd be a lot more empowered to go take these arguments to other people outside of the Hive sphere,
Absolutely amazing. You know, there is a obvious need for a book like that, and going back to a point you made before, there's no ifs, ands, or buts that people bring people, and so the more people you can have supporting Hive at these events, the better Hive will look. Um, and I think as well, if I tied it into the Hive Hub endeavor we're going to do here, having a crew of us here is going to also be a motivational factor that other people are all doing it rather than one person behind a desk trying to onboard somebody. um, I want to thank you so much, Starkerz, for coming to Jabber Talkie number 3, where we just openly chat about various subjects that are happening on Hive. I want to thank everybody that came to the show, and I'm going to let Meno have the last words here, and we will officially shut down, and then we can continue on in the after chat because I see some more questions coming up in the chat that we can still hit in the after chat.
Well, I think today, honestly, you always think that the last podcast, the last thing you do is the best, but I think today is the most powerful one, in my opinion, because we're really talking about taking our little tribe and making it a worldwide community. I mean, we're small right now. We're tiny. I don't know how many people, active people we got going on, 5,000, 6,000 people. There's some people that are maybe they'll come back, but I don't think we've had, at least I haven't, for not this clear, at least. I don't think we've had a clear understanding of the possibilities of what this blockchain can do, with this thing that we are all part of, and that some of us are building, what it can really do. I I know Starkerz has been very humble with the whole writing stuff, but this book is powerful as is super powerful. Like, it got me. If I had to tell you what made me so bullish this week, was reading that. So like when I'm out there talking to people, a lot of the things I read from this book are coming out of my mouth with my own words. But I was having a really hard time getting clarity of the direction, of where are we going to go? How's the world going to look, and how we can take back a lot of things that slowly have been stripped away. So this book is to me, it's gonna be a must read for Hivians, at least for the guys that want to make this place grow. It's gonna be a must read. So I want to I want to thank Starkerz for coming in. I don't know when the book is officially going to be released. I know obviously I have a copy, but I'm not going to share it. He asked me not to. But yeah, I can't wait. This is really awesome, and I can't wait to see what happens in Guatemala. That is such an amazing thing. I think there's a blueprint going to come out of there that is just going to give people the ability to just replicate that experiment and go out there and just onboard. And anybody listening to this, like, if you're thinking, like, oh, I don't know if I can do it, I'm a small account. This is what we're talking about. It doesn't matter how big you are. You could be a tiny minnow. It doesn't matter. Like, if you got the drive, you can come up to any of us. You can come up to Starkerz and all stuff. Show them what you got going on. Put in the work, and we're gonna support you, because this is for all of us. This is not for me. It's not just for you. It's for all of us. We all grow. We all succeed. We all win together. So, I'm leaving this conversation even more pumped. I feel like I should be calling somebody else and onboarding before the day ends. So I'm probably gonna drink another coffee and try to see if I can onboard somebody else. But I'm really excited what's gonna happen in the future, and I wish I could go to Guatemala. But I hope you guys take a lot of pictures and write a lot of blogs.
And until the next Jabber Talkie. And Eco Cuts right there.
Hey,
All right.
Eco Cuts. He was here. He was listening.